Are you sabotaging your diabetes management every time you reach for bread? If you're over 60 and dealing with diabetes or prediabetes, understanding which bread mistakes to avoid could make the difference between stable blood sugar and dangerous spikes throughout the day. I'm going to reveal 4 bread mistakes that are quietly undermining your efforts to stay healthy, and I'll show you exactly what to do instead. Stick with me, because mistake number 3 involves something that's happening in your body that you can't even feel, but it's affecting your long-term health in ways you need to understand. Let me start with some reassuring news. Research shows you don't have to give up bread completely when managing diabetes. Studies suggest that whole grain consumption may be associated with reduced incidence of type 2 diabetes. The key is making smarter choices about the type of bread you eat, when you eat it, and how you prepare it. This isn't about deprivation. It's about education and making choices that support your health goals. If this sounds helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. And make sure you subscribe to this channel, because I'm dedicated to bringing you practical, science-based information for managing diabetes and staying healthy after 60. Let's dive in. Bread mistake number 1 that's hurting your diabetes management: choosing white bread and other highly refined grain products. I know this seems obvious, but let me explain why this matters even more than you might think. White bread is classified as a high glycemic index food, and frequent consumption can lead to rapid increases in blood glucose, potentially causing metabolic stress and contributing to insulin resistance. Here's what happens in your body when you eat white bread. The manufacturing process strips away the bran and germ from wheat kernels, leaving only the starchy endosperm. This removes most of the fiber, vitamins, minerals, and beneficial plant compounds. What you're left with is essentially fast-acting carbohydrates that your body converts to glucose almost immediately. Think of white bread like kindling on a fire. It burns hot and fast. Your blood sugar spikes quickly, your pancreas has to pump out a lot of insulin to handle that spike, and then your blood sugar often crashes, leaving you tired and hungry again within an hour or two. Studies using the first National Glycemic Index database in the United States identified white bread as one of the top glycemic load-contributing foods to the American diet, alongside soft drinks and fruit juice. For someone managing diabetes, this creates a roller coaster effect. Your glucose levels go up sharply, then come down rapidly, triggering hunger and cravings. You reach for more food, often more carbohydrates, and the cycle continues. Over time, this pattern makes insulin resistance worse and makes diabetes harder to control. But here's something many people don't realize. It's not just sliced white bread that's the problem. This category includes white hamburger buns, hot dog rolls, most bagels, many wraps and tortillas, typical grocery store dinner rolls, and even some breads labeled as wheat bread that aren't actually whole wheat. The food industry has gotten clever with names: wheat bread, multigrain, 7-grain, stone ground. These labels sound healthy, but unless the first ingredient says whole, you're still getting refined grain. What should you do instead? Switch to bread where the first ingredient listed is 100% whole wheat or 100% whole grain. Research on people with type 2 diabetes found that consuming whole wheat bread for 12 weeks significantly reduced hemoglobin A1C, triglycerides, total cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol levels while increasing HDL cholesterol. That's comprehensive metabolic improvement from a simple bread swap. Whole grain bread contains all 3 parts of the grain kernel. The fiber-rich bran slows digestion. The nutrient-dense germ provides vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats. And the endosperm supplies energy. Together, these components work to moderate blood sugar response. Instead of that quick spike and crash, you get a gradual rise and sustained energy. When shopping, flip the package over and read the ingredient list. The first ingredient should say whole wheat, whole grain, or whole followed by the specific grain name. Check the nutrition label too. Look for at least 2.5 grams of fiber per slice. The American Diabetes Association recommends this amount when evaluating bread options. If you can find bread with 3 or 4 grams of fiber per slice, even better. Bread mistake number 2: eating bread by itself without protein or healthy fat. This is a huge mistake I see constantly, especially with older adults who grew up when toast for breakfast or a sandwich for lunch meant just bread and maybe jam or cold cuts. But for diabetes management, eating bread alone is setting yourself up for problems. Here's why. Carbohydrates eaten by themselves are digested and absorbed quickly. There's nothing to slow down the conversion of those carbs to glucose. Your blood sugar spikes sharply. Think about your typical morning routine. You wake up, pop a piece of toast in the toaster, spread on some jam or margarine, and eat it standing at the counter. 30 minutes later, you feel shaky, irritable, or tired. That's your blood sugar spiking and then dropping. Or consider lunch. You grab a sandwich made with 2 slices of bread and some lean turkey. Better than toast alone, but you're still getting a significant carbohydrate load without enough fat or fiber to moderate the blood sugar impact. Research on glycemic response consistently shows that combining carbohydrates with protein and healthy fats significantly blunts the blood sugar spike. The protein and fat slow gastric emptying. That means food moves more slowly from your stomach into your small intestine, where glucose absorption happens. This creates a more gradual rise in blood glucose instead of a sharp spike. What's the solution? Never eat bread by itself. Always pair it with protein and ideally some healthy fat. Let me give you practical examples. For breakfast toast, top it with mashed avocado and a poached egg. The avocado provides healthy monounsaturated fat and fiber. The egg delivers high-quality protein. Together, they transform a high glycemic food into a balanced meal that won't spike your blood sugar nearly as much. For sandwiches, don't just use a thin slice of deli meat. Load up your sandwich with protein. Use 3 ounces of turkey, chicken, tuna, or salmon. Add sliced cheese if you tolerate dairy. Include vegetables like lettuce, tomato, cucumber, and peppers for extra fiber. Spread the bread with hummus, avocado, or a little olive oil-based mayo instead of regular mayo. These additions provide protein and healthy fats that moderate blood sugar response. If you're having bread with dinner, make sure your plate follows the diabetes plate method. Half your plate should be non-starchy vegetables. 1/4 should be lean protein. Only 1/4 should be starchy foods like bread. This naturally limits bread portions while ensuring you're getting protein and fiber to balance the meal. Here's another tip. Consider eating your protein and vegetables first, then eating your bread last. Research on meal sequencing suggests that consuming protein and vegetables before carbohydrates can lead to lower blood glucose responses. Your stomach starts filling up with the protein and fiber. By the time you eat the bread, you eat less of it, and what you do eat is mixed with all that other food, slowing absorption. Moving on to bread mistake number 3. Ignoring how bread processing affects your body long term. This is the invisible mistake I mentioned earlier. You can't feel it happening, but certain bread characteristics are affecting your health in ways that show up months and years down the road. Let me explain. Not all whole grain breads are created equal. The degree of processing matters tremendously. Modern industrial milling creates incredibly fine flour, even when it's whole grain flour. That flour is then used to make soft, fluffy bread that Americans prefer. But here's the problem. Research indicates that food structure has a strong impact on postprandial metabolism by modulating the rate of nutrient digestion and absorption in the small intestine. Finely ground flour, even whole grain, is digested much faster than coarsely ground flour or intact grain kernels. Think of it this way. Your digestive enzymes need to break down food particles to extract glucose. If the flour is already ground into tiny particles, the enzymes can access and break down the starch very quickly. It's like the difference between trying to dissolve a sugar cube versus granulated sugar. The granulated sugar dissolves instantly because of the increased surface area. The same principle applies to flour. This is why some traditional bread varieties show surprising benefits for blood sugar control. Studies found that consumption of sourdough bread has a lower impact on blood glucose compared to industrial bread, with blood glucose levels after 60 minutes and 120 minutes showing less elevation. The slow fermentation process in sourdough bread does several things. It breaks down some of the starch, making less available for quick absorption. It creates organic acids that slow gastric emptying, and it may affect the bread structure in ways that reduce how quickly enzymes can access the starches. Rye bread is another example. Studies from Finland found that eating rye bread helped reduce post-meal blood sugar rises in people with diabetes. Rye has a different fiber composition than wheat, with more soluble fiber that forms a gel-like substance in your digestive tract. This gel slows nutrient absorption, moderating blood sugar response. What should you do with this information? Look for breads that use traditional preparation methods, or contain coarser flour, or even intact grains. Sourdough whole wheat bread, pumpernickel, genuine rye bread, not just rye-flavored wheat bread, sprouted grain bread. These options often have lower glycemic impacts than standard whole wheat bread. Research on buckwheat-containing bread found improvements in plasma insulin levels and glycemic responses, along with enhanced antioxidant status in people with diabetes. Breads incorporating alternative grains or seeds often provide additional benefits. Look for breads containing sunflower seeds, flax seeds, oats, barley, or quinoa. These ingredients add extra fiber, protein, and beneficial nutrients. You can also consider texture when choosing bread. Dense, heavy breads with visible grain particles or seeds generally have lower glycemic impacts than soft, fluffy breads. That artisan whole grain bread from the bakery that's so dense you can barely squeeze it. That's probably better for your blood sugar than the soft whole wheat sandwich bread that compresses to nothing when you press on it. Bread mistake number 4. Eating too much bread or having it at every meal. Even if you're choosing the right type of bread and combining it properly with other foods, portion size still matters enormously. For someone managing diabetes, carbohydrate quantity adds up throughout the day. Many older Americans grew up in an era when bread was the foundation of every meal. Toast at breakfast, sandwiches at lunch, dinner rolls with dinner, maybe a bedtime snack with crackers. That's a lot of grain-based carbohydrates. Current diabetes nutrition guidelines focus on carbohydrate consistency and moderation. Most people with diabetes do best consuming 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal, though individual needs vary based on your size, activity level, and medications. A single slice of bread contains about 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates depending on size and type. 2 slices puts you at 30 to 40 grams just from bread. Add other carbohydrate sources in that meal, and you can easily exceed your target. Here's a scenario I see frequently. Breakfast is 2 slices of toast, maybe some oatmeal. That's already 50 to 70 grams of carbs. Lunch is a sandwich on 2 slices of bread with a piece of fruit. Another 40 to 60 grams. Dinner includes a roll and a serving of rice or potatoes. Another 40 to 50 grams. That's 130 to 180 grams of carbohydrates just from starchy foods, not counting vegetables, dairy, or other sources. For many people with diabetes, that's too much, and blood sugar control suffers. The solution isn't necessarily eliminating bread. It's being strategic about when and how much you eat. Consider having bread at 1 meal per day instead of 3. Maybe you really enjoy toast for breakfast. Great. Have your whole grain toast with eggs and avocado. But then at lunch, skip the sandwich bread and have a salad with grilled chicken, or lettuce wraps, or a grain bowl with quinoa instead of bread. At dinner, focus on protein and vegetables without bread or other grains. When you do eat bread, pay attention to portions. 1 slice of bread equals 1 serving. 2 slices is 2 servings. That might not sound like much, but it's how carbohydrate counting works. If you're having a sandwich, consider an open-faced sandwich. Use just 1 slice of bread, top it with all your sandwich fixings, and eat it with a fork. You get the satisfaction of bread without doubling your carbohydrate intake. Another strategy is to bulk up your meals with non-starchy vegetables. If you're having toast for breakfast, serve it alongside sautéed vegetables or a side salad. At lunch, if you're having a sandwich, make sure half your plate is raw vegetables or soup. This fills you up with fiber-rich, low-calorie foods, so you're satisfied with less bread. Be honest with yourself about serving sizes too. Many bread slices from bakeries or specialty loaves are much larger than standard sliced bread. That thick slice of artisan bread might be equivalent to 2 regular slices in terms of carbohydrates. Read the nutrition label. If a serving is listed as 1 slice, and that slice weighs 80 grams, but the slice you're eating weighs 160 grams, you're actually eating 2 servings and need to count it as such. Let me give you a practical example of implementing all these guidelines. Imagine you currently eat white bread toast for breakfast, a white bread sandwich for lunch, and dinner rolls with dinner. Your blood sugar is difficult to control despite medication. Here's how you might transition over 4 weeks. Week 1. Switch your white bread to whole grain bread at all meals. Just this change will improve fiber intake and moderate some blood sugar spikes. Week 2. Start adding protein and fat when you eat bread. Put peanut butter on your morning toast. Add cheese and avocado to your sandwich. This will help control mid-morning and afternoon energy crashes. Week 3. Experiment with alternative bread types. Try sourdough whole wheat bread, sample sprouted grain bread, find rye or pumpernickel. See which ones you enjoy and which seem to affect your blood sugar better. Week 4, reduce frequency and portions. Have bread at only 2 meals instead of 3. Use 1 slice for an open-faced sandwich at lunch instead of 2 slices. Skip the dinner roll and have extra vegetables instead. What results might you see from these changes? Your blood sugar readings after meals should be lower and more stable. Your hemoglobin A1C, which reflects your average blood sugar over 3 months, may improve. You might have more consistent energy throughout the day without the crashes. Your cholesterol profile could improve, especially if you are eating a lot of refined grain. These changes support better overall diabetes management and reduce your risk of complications. Let me address some concerns you might have. What if you really love bread and don't want to cut back? I understand. Food is about more than just nutrition. It's about enjoyment and culture and comfort. You don't have to give up bread entirely. Focus first on quality. Make sure every piece of bread you eat is the highest quality whole grain option. Then work on the context. Always combine it with protein and vegetables. Finally, be mindful of portions. Enjoy bread, but in amounts that support your health goals. What about bread substitutes like lettuce wraps or portobello mushroom buns? These can be excellent options when you want to reduce carbohydrate intake. Lettuce wraps work great for sandwich fillings. Large portobello mushroom caps can serve as burger buns. Thin sliced cucumbers can hold tuna or chicken salad. These vegetables provide crunch and substance with minimal carbohydrates. But they're not bread, and they don't taste like bread. Use them when they fit what you want, but don't force yourself to use substitutes if they're not satisfying. Sometimes it's better to have one slice of really good whole grain bread and thoroughly enjoy it than to eat unsatisfying substitutes and feel deprived. What if you can't afford expensive artisan breads from bakeries? That's a valid concern, especially for older adults on fixed incomes. The good news is that you don't need expensive bread to make healthy choices. Most grocery stores carry affordable whole grain bread options. Store brands often have 100% whole wheat bread at reasonable prices. Read labels carefully to find options with good fiber content. Stock up when there's a sale. Whole grain bread freezes beautifully for up to 3 months. You can even make your own bread if you enjoy baking. Whole grain flour is inexpensive, and homemade bread lets you control exactly what goes into it. Before I wrap up, I want to emphasize something crucial. Always work with your healthcare provider when managing diabetes. What I've shared here is educational information based on current research, not personalized medical advice for your specific situation. Your doctor, endocrinologist, or registered dietitian can help you determine the right carbohydrate targets for your individual needs. Consider how your medications interact with diet and monitor your progress over time. So there you have it. 4 bread mistakes that could be undermining your diabetes management after 60. Let's quickly recap. Stop choosing white bread and refined grain products. Switch to 100% whole grain or whole wheat bread with at least 2.5 grams of fiber per slice. Never eat bread by itself. Always combine it with protein and healthy fat to moderate blood sugar response. Pay attention to bread processing and structure. Choose traditionally prepared breads like sourdough, sprouted grain, or rye when possible. And watch your portions and frequency. Have bread strategically at 1 or 2 meals per day rather than 3, and stick to appropriate serving sizes. These simple changes can make a significant difference in your diabetes management. Better blood sugar control, more stable energy, improved cholesterol levels, and reduced risk of diabetic complications are all within reach when you make smarter bread choices. Remember, this isn't about deprivation. It's about making informed choices that support your health while still enjoying food. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 4 mistakes have you been making? Which change seems most challenging for you? What's your favorite type of bread? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every comment, and your questions help me create content that addresses what you really want to know about managing diabetes. If you found this information helpful, please hit that like button. It helps this video reach more people who are managing diabetes and could benefit from this practical guidance. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. I create new videos every week specifically for older adults managing diabetes and working to stay healthy and independent. Thanks so much for watching. Here's to making smarter bread choices that support your health and help you thrive with diabetes. I'll see you in the next video.